Epic Games keeps dropping next season teasers nonstop, and low-key the island is about to be pure gaming shenanigans. We're talking insane abilities, massive map changes, and fresh Battle Pass heat. Let's kick things off with the Tetris trailer, where Peely shows up front and center yet again. That alone makes me think he's landing a skin this season. The funniest part actually goes down in the comments, where somebody jokingly asks for a Tetris skin. That pretty much confirms Fortnite is cooking up some wild concept to fold these blocks into the game. Back in the footage, we spot the item that's gonna work like a junk rift, and it looks like it also drops a wall right in front of you. That could double as cover when you need to dig in, which leaves us with something chaotic, but genuinely handy. Last up there are the clouds from the Sony trailer shaped like Tetris pieces, which had already been hinting at this crossover. The exact same trick just happened again too, because this one locks in Pac-Man. Look close at the clouds, and you'll catch the ghost designs. The final thing worth flagging is the setting where this whole scene plays out, since it's absolutely covered in blocks. You might assume that's just a side effect of using the item, but I'm ruling that out, because if those pieces landed on a building, they'd flatten it completely instead of stacking this neatly. So Epic clearly staged it on purpose, and I'm confident it's a brand new spot. It isn't the only one either, because if you look over here, there's what appears to be a temple, though hopefully the next round of trailers gives us a cleaner read on what it's all about. We got the trailer for 99 Nights in the Forest, which for anyone out of the loop started as a Roblox game, before showing up as a knockoff inside Fortnite. If I'm not mistaken, it's published by a different studio, so the tie-in is technically with Roblox, though not with the main game itself, but with its Creative Worlds platform, the one that plays a lot, like what we already have here. This teaser came straight from the crew behind the Roblox version, paired with a line confirming the skin arrives August 20th, the same day Season 4 goes live, so odds are it belongs to the Battle Pass. The rough part of the announcement is that Epic had thrown "Survive the Night" into the description a day earlier, which had tons of people convinced it meant a Minecraft or Five Nights at Freddy's reveal, so plenty of folks felt let down when this dropped instead. That said, it doesn't rule those two out for the season. In fact, I'm pretty sure that employee who got laid off leaked Minecraft actually landing in Fortnite, so we've got to stay patient, because it isn't only past content coming our way. We've got 3 whole months ahead, loaded with surprises from a bunch of other franchises. Speaking of the Battle Pass, this one feels basically locked, and it might match one of the 4 codenames the leakers dropped a few days back, covering half the roster. On top of that, word is, one of them comes with a guitar and a custom Lego head, meaning no standard minifigure dome, but its own unique model instead, which makes me lean toward it being the Roblox character. Then again, there are 4 other skins that could rock a molded head too, like the next collab we're about to get into. So now let's jump to the very first trailer, the Sonic one, which is easily the biggest deal so far. And not only for what it puts on screen, but for an extra leak that could hand this character a massive role. His skin isn't the only thing the trailer confirms from his games, because when Epic posted it, they tagged on that line about the new Fortnite zone feeling strangely familiar, which straight up guarantees a fresh location or biome built around the series. You can see it plain as day in the mountain design, and in that giant loop the games are famous for, where it looks like we'll morph into a blue ball, mimicking the hedgehog to clear it. Right before that, Peely goes tearing across the screen powered up by Sonic, which tells me we'll get a sprite or an item that hands us that speed boost. If I've got a bet, I'd call it an item, since I figure it's replacing the 7 boots as this season's mobility gadget. Heading back to the platform, there's a ring sitting at the end. It's bound to matter, even if we don't know how yet, but if we go by the way rings behave in the actual games, it'd basically function like a bush. Grab a few, and instead of eating damage on that first hit, you lose the ring. Personally, I'd love for them to stay as faithful as possible to how these crossover items work in their home games, because it sells the feeling of playing Fortnite while it feels like you've stepped into a completely different one, which I take to be the whole point of the season. Now for the leak, which is the skin of Sonic's arch-rival, Dr. Eggman, and it surfaced the same day as the season's latest update, so there's almost certainly something sitting in the files about him. The real question is whether he pops up even before the next season kicks off. That would work as an in-game tease and a shop tease at once, or he could turn up as boss, or inside the trailers for the little finale event landing this Saturday. That's my own theory, mind you, since the only thing genuinely leaked is that he's coming to the game. Realistically, he probably drops in the opening weeks of next season, but I'd wager he heads to the shop, which is exactly why I'm calling Sonic a lock for the pass. It's not just about having his rival on deck either. It's everything the trailers showed us, from his zone to his powers already baked into the game. And since this was the first video they revealed, I'd peg him as the level 1 skin. I've said it in a few videos, but obviously Tails, Knuckles, and the rest of the crew are coming as well, headed for the shop as usual. At this point, you might figure every slot in the pass is a crossover, but it turns out Geno is joining the lineup too. That doesn't shock me, since this could be his final season in the game, and it arrives at an absolutely wild moment after years of him being a name we all knew yet never actually laid eyes on. Not as a boss, and definitely not as someone you could play. A lot of you are probably thinking the Ageless is already his skin from back in 2022, but that's a totally different beast, because that imitation of the real Geno doesn't share his personality or his look. So we're finally getting the genuine article, the main villain of the whole game, and I'm expecting him stacked with outfits and styles. As bummed as I am that the pass isn't a full crossover, he's more than earned his spot, and he'll be etched into gaming history the second he drops. We also can't forget that in the lore he's still the single most important character, and throughout Season 4, we'll keep squaring off against him. The spotlight leans toward the game crossovers early on, but the finale is almost certainly shaping up to be a showdown with Geno. To take on the villain, you need the hero, which obviously points to Jonesy, another face we've known for ages, the star of every chapter and every season, who spent this last stretch soaking in a tub while recovering from the Visitor's betrayal. So he's going to be itching for payback, and if you've kept up with the story, you already know the sprites are on the verge of bringing him back, which is why I think he lands in the Battle Pass too. I can even map out the styles I'm expecting. You already know we're getting fresh news every single day, so make sure you subscribe, because the next season keeps creeping closer. Before we get there though, we've got to pass through one final event, and I break down everything you need to know about it right here. Starting with the one already live on the island, since the countdown went active this Saturday during the Power Hour. For anyone who hasn't jumped in or missed it, that timer is sitting right on top of the collider, and it's ticking down to the season finale on Saturday, August 15th. One thing you absolutely can't sleep on. If you want in, load up the game at least half an hour early, and drop into the Battle Royale lobby a solid 5 minutes before it kicks off, because that's the window where getting eliminated, and eliminating anyone else, gets switched off. Show up a little ahead of the clock so you don't miss a single second. Now, as you've probably gathered, this one isn't the massive spectacle we got last season. There's no separate mode this time. It's not stretching to 10 minutes, nothing close. The going theory is that it runs about 5 minutes, and we'll likely watch the whole thing from our usual angle, meaning the standard third person we always play in, with maybe a cinematic layering over the match at most. There's actually a bit already known about it, but I'm keeping my mouth shut, because like I said, it's a small one, so spoiling it would just wreck the experience for you. What I can tell you for sure is that it ties into hacks and glitches. And that's not only because Override is the next season's name, it's also because the whole thing got announced during Saturday's Power Hour through a news post right in the Battle Royale lobby. That same announcement rolled in with the line about someone powerful rewriting the rules and change the game, while the island's future hangs by a thread. Right after that, the Battle Royale mode swapped its thumbnail, and you can spot a glitchy background with Tetris pieces tumbling down the right edge of the shot. The community also started theorizing about a cube that might be from Crash Bandicoot. None of that is just wishful thinking either, since we already know there are encrypted posters data mined in the game tied to brands like Sonic and Pac-Man. Those are dropping soon, possibly even right after the finale. But for now, the only fresh teaser we've got is the line Fortnite posted on Discord. Expect the teasers and trailers to start rolling from here, and I'll cover all of that in future videos. Another thing you need to know before you enjoy the finale is everything that's gone down in the game's story. First off, in the last event we watched the Visitor shoot Jones in the back and betray the Seven. Thing is, nobody in the team had any idea he was actually Geno. the biggest villain in the whole game. So for weeks we were basically doing his dirty work, helping Sloan build the collider that's planted exactly where the countdown sits, which also happens to be the spot we'll be landing for the finale. That machine was built to control the 0 point, the very thing Geno wants in his grip, but his plan fell apart, and they sniffed him out thanks to his own slip-ups. Now the Seven know he was hiding under the Visitor's mask, who used to be nothing more than an NPC, has bailed on the island, and is currently in hiding. That's exactly why the Dark Voyager is now going after the island, and we'll probably run into him during the event, maybe even square off against him or something along those lines. The way I read it, he's going to be a thorn in our side, because we're still going to fire up the machine to control the 0 point, except this time, it's the good guys taking hold of its power. Meanwhile, Jones has spent months soaking in a tank trying to recover, and it turns out the sprites that have been popping up all season long can lend him their energy to bring him back. So during this event, we'll most likely see him climb out of that tub. This is the kind of moment I was hinting at earlier, where on top of the event itself, they might slip in a cinematic, like Jones stepping out to rejoin everyone, or drop it right afterward. If I had to bet, I'd even say it could be a trailer Fortnite puts out ahead of time to hype things up. But either way, I'm convinced it matters somehow, and it deserves a proper look. The real question is what actually happens with the collider, because the whole idea is to use it. Yet that same teaser from the Battle Royale news already says someone is controlling the game. That means Sloan and the rest of the crew could see their plans amount to nothing, which honestly tracks since it'd send us into Season 4 with the 0 point still off the rails, spawning even more sprites. They've confirmed those are sticking around, or more accurately, that a second generation is arriving while the current batch temporarily vanishes from the island. And whoever's hacking the game fits the logic perfectly, because it'd explain how video game worlds like Sonic or Pac-Man mesh with Fortnite's. So next season we'd be running two storylines side by side, both equally important, one centered on Geno and the possible showdown with him, the other on whoever's messing with the game and how we shut them down. Personally, I'm all in on this, because for anyone who loves the lore, loves gaming, or just wants to enjoy Fortnite firing on all cylinders, next season looks like it's kicking off beautifully, with a ridiculous amount of fresh content on the way. On top of that, like I mentioned, the sprites that were the highlight of this season aren't only carrying over, they're getting an upgrade. Rounding them all up makes even more sense now, and I'm willing to bet most of you are still missing 20, 30, even 40 sprites, and roughly 10 of those are the 0 point, the Reaper, and their special color variants. After Saturday's event, there's great news for collectors, because we're getting a Power Hour loaded with the mythic Empowered ones. Those are the two I just mentioned in every variant style, and they'll be the most common drops, with a mass appearance of the collab versions on top, including the Batman one, Iron Mouse, and others. Epic also has something like 3 more Power Hours in the pipeline, though we don't know the dates yet. Now on to another live event happening this same week, which brings us to D23, the show Disney runs that's almost guaranteed to have Fortnite content. I wouldn't even rule out more than one piece of news tied to it. It gets going on the 15th at 9 PM Eastern Time, meaning 16 hours before the finale. In one of the panels this weekend, I'm hoping they show off something about the mode launching in November. Remember, we've had a trailer for that, and it's been 2 years now, so it feels about time they dig into it a little deeper. After that, we might get something on the extraction shooter that leaked a few months back, which could be its own separate mode, or folded into the one I just brought up. Barely anything Disney related ever slips out, so it's tough to say. The final possibility would be skin collabs, the way they did years ago with The Incredibles, or from a franchise they own like Marvel or Star Wars. Another teaser players sniffed out was hiding over in the Wonky Land, where the Pac-Man theme was playing before Epic quietly switched it off. My guess is they turned it on way too early, and roughly a week out they'll flip it back on. That timing might even line up with a batch of posters that got decrypted in last week's update, the ones where you can plainly make out Sonic, Tetris, Persona, and a few other faces. Like I said, those posters will probably show up sometime this week, or worst case the next one, because after that, we head straight into the trailers and the juicier Season 4 content. What I honestly can't call yet is how they're gonna place them, or whether it'll even tie into the lore, though I'm crossing my fingers that it does. I actually love the idea of us players being the ones who drop these posters across the map through quests. For now, nobody has a clue how they'll pop up, but stick around because I'll keep you posted for sure. These posters are basically confirming which collab skins are landing next season too, and one of them is almost certainly headed for the Battle Pass, which is Sonic. I don't think he's showing up there just because he's a big deal, but also because his rival Eggman looks to be encrypted right now. That means the Eggman skin should hit the shop before the season wraps, or maybe they slotted it in for the final event or something along those lines. And speaking of that finale, I'll get into it later because you really want to know what's about to go down there. A few other crossovers pegged for the pass would be Tetris, Pac-Man, Persona, and Kingdom Hearts pulling from the Rocket League vault. This one's been an open secret for a while since we knew there were raps tied to Sora, so that pretty much locks in a handful of characters from this collab. Every one of them could end up in the pass, meaning we might get a fully loaded pass with 8 crossovers, which would be an absolute bomb. That said, there's still the chance we only get 1 or 2 of them, and the rest of the skins stay pure Fortnite. I'm not ruling that out at all, since it'd mirror last year's Shock and Awesome season, which lines up on the exact same season number and even the same rough dates. Looking a little further down the road, we're also going to live through Fortnitemares inside this one. For my money, that's the best event of the year, and we'll probably have to hold out for the last update. I'm theorizing here based on the fact that the update's already leaked, and supposedly we're getting 4 total. I know I'm jumping way ahead, but I like handing you as much info as possible on this stuff, and in theory, the season ends on October 29th, which means that day we'd get patch 43, likely a smaller one. Before we drift that far out though, we gotta break down the Override season description, which reads, breaking the rules and changing the game. That line could be super telling, not just for the next season, where knowing it might lean into crossovers and video games makes the meaning pretty obvious. Beyond that, I think it's also teasing something big about this season's finale. According to the leaks, we're gonna get glitched out during it, and that'll trigger a bunch of different effects. I'm picturing something along the lines of what we had with The Simpsons, where we kept jumping between dimensions, except now the season name tells us these will feel like actual bugs inside Fortnite itself. So all of this is probably going to drop us onto a completely different island, or at least one with small tweaks from the current map, grabbing elements pulled from other games. That would neatly explain why we're pivoting from this 0 Point and Geno season into one aimed squarely at video game crossovers. Looking back now at that Sloan emote we've had since day 1 of the season, I'm convinced it was the very first teaser for this event, and the next season, since it reflects a ton of what we might see in the finale. Sloan is supposedly the one who fires up the machine to launch it, and somehow the 0 Point or the machine glitches out. And that error is what hurls us into Season 4 with all these crossovers. This finale, by the way, isn't happening hours before the new season, since like I mentioned, that one starts on the 20th, it lands instead on Saturday, August 15th. Once again, that circles right back to everything I said about Sloan and the Override angle. Pretty soon we'll also get the in-game countdown for it sitting on top of the collider. For anyone who doesn't know, this whole thing grows out of a story they've been telling. In the end of this one, you can catch the full breakdown. But a few hours ago, they added the last set of quests. So let me sum them up here, since we've got 2 really interesting pieces. The first one pulls in Jonesy, who's asleep right now, which is why Sloan sends us out to capture sprites. Sloan tells us she's been digging through the files Hope swiped from Geno's lab, and these sprites give off a seriously weird energy. She struggles to even describe them, saying they don't quite exist, or only exist sometimes, or exist more than everything else combined. So Jonesy will be back with us before long, helping us fight Geno, who's the star of the other story missions, and those are way more interesting, at least when it comes to the calls. As for content in other modes, we've got Reload, where nobody was touching anything except the Simpsons Island, so now that's the only one up. Pretty soon, we'll get the OG Mech's final event since they're already on the 3rd construction phase, and whenever that hits, we'll probably see the Singularity skin in the shop too. Keep in mind, this OG event likely ties heavily into the main mode, because I've said it a bunch of times across a bunch of videos, but the OG mode, Reload, Lego, and Battle Royale are all connected, and the only ones running events are OG and the main mode. So now that Season 10 and Chapter 7 Season 4 are about to begin, we'll probably get something close to the event we had years back, the one they actually remade not too long ago in 2023. This year points towards something similar, though I don't think it'll be a straight copy. The good news is, you can safely trust Fortnite to surprise us now, since they're telling a killer story, and I really recommend checking out this story explanation where I break the whole thing down.